صل على محمد
واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. We're discussing Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in these classes, and connecting with the discussion of the previous class. This word Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is talking about three of these are the beautiful names of Allah and Ar-Rahman and Ar-Rahim. We already discussed the differences between Rahman and Rahim in the previous classes, and the name Allah and Ar-Rahman, because these are the two names comprise all the asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without exception. All the names of Allah are represented in these two without exception. So these are basically alam. How we say grammatically, it's an alam or ism al-zat. This is how we refer to the essence of Allah. So these two names refer to all, and it comprise all the name asma of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these two names have tajalliyat. Now these two names of Allah have tajalliyat, and in the whole universe. So we whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing in this universe is based on one or several names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He is taking revenge from the criminals, like it says in Surah Al-Sajdah, verse number 22, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا مِنَ الْمُجْرِمِينَ مُنْتَقِمُونَ. Certainly we are the revenge takers from the criminals. So Allah is taking intiqam and vengeance from the criminals. So this qahr and ghadab and wrath of Allah and intiqam and vengeance is going on. It's an ongoing thing. This also falls under one or several names of Allah. This incident taking place is falling in under one or several names of Allah. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's lutf and mercy is done towards the muttaqin. Right? So muttaqin are included in His mercy to an extent that Allah takes them to the paradise. The ayat from Surah Maryam 63. Maryam 63 says that من تلك الجنة التي نورث من عبادنا من كان تقيا. So we learn from this verse that paradise which we make the inheritors, those of our servants who are pious. So Allah makes the pious servants, muttaqi, servants of His, to be the waris and inheritors of the paradise. So Allah is sending them to the paradise, right? Sending the muttaqeen to the paradise. This is one tajalli, one reflection of Allah. This is another reflection of Allah. All these reflections of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all these acts that He is performing on the ongoing basis falls under one or several names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what my teacher has said, let me say what that statement first, that see, the names of Allah are divided into several types from several aspects. From one aspect, we divide the names of Allah into two types. Asma al-Tadwiniya and Asma al-Takwiniya. So Tadwini, names of Allah, and the Takwini names of Allah. Okay, and then Takwini, like I have already explained in so many speeches, and I think you all may be familiar already, derived from the word al-kawn in Arabic, which means wujud and existence. Asma Takwiniya are those existences, those names of Allah which are mutajalli, which are reflected in various existences in this universe. And al-Asma al-Tadwiniya is the names of Allah which are written down in the Suhuf and Kutub and Zubur and the books. So my teacher had said that the Asma al-Tadwiniya, those are the names which are written down and documented in the books, are actually mubayyin, explainer of all the Asma al-Takwiniya, all the Takwini names of Allah. That means all the things, the a'mal, af'al, shu'un, all the various acts and incidents and events which are taking place constantly, trillions and trillions and trillions of actions are being done. Countless actions or jobs or tasks are handled by Allah in the universe, right? So all the actions performed in the universe are explained, are falling under one or several names of Allah, and those names of Allah which are mutajalli and reflected in various existences are because of the names which are in the books, Asma al-Tadwiniya, and these are the ones that explain those happenings. So this requires knowledge. Why is a flower blossoming? It's a question. Why are the rivers flowing? It's a question. Why are the criminals being punished? It's a question. Why are the babies born dead, stillbirths? It's a question. Why are some people, getting richer? It's a question. Why are some people losing their jobs? It's a question.
trillions of tasks handled, countless tasks handled by Allah in the universe, and all the tasks that are going on are reflections of one or several names of Allah. And those tasks which are reflected in by one of several names of Allah in the universe, in the world of existences around us, are explained by these names of Allah. And these names are the explainers towards those tasks. This makes the job really interesting and complicated as well. So those people who have the ilmul asma, knowledge of the names, will be governing over the universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first thing He taught to Prophet Adam, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, and He taught Adam the names, all of them. So Adam alayhi salam have been given the names, ilmul asma, name of the knowledge of the names have been given to Prophet Adam. So when we have this perspective clarified in our minds, then we will easily understand what I had said in the previous class, that the meaning of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is different for every surah of Quran. You cannot say that the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim written ahead of Surah Al-Masad, Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab, is the same meaning of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim written in front of Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. No way. There are different tasks which are mentioned in each of those surahs, different things. When different things are conducted by Allah, and each of those things fall under one or several names of Allah, it will have different tajalliyat. If you look at Nahjul Balagha, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, and I have written this hadith from Nahjul Balagha, Khutbah 108. Sermon 108 from Imam alayhi salam, where he talks about this point that we are discussing right now, and much more than that. Alhamdulillah al-Mutajalli. This is from Nahjul Balagha. Alhamdulillah al-Mutajalli بخلقه بخلقه. What a beautiful sentence. So all the praise be to Allah, who is reflecting for His creatures, through His creatures. All the praise belongs to Allah, who is reflecting for His creatures, through His creatures. So every creature is a reflection of Allah. That's why we say it's an ayat of Allah. Everything is an ayatullah. Ayat means sign. If a thing is not the sign of God, if a thing is not a wajh and face of Allah, if a thing is not a reflection and mazhar and face and wajh of God, it can't exist. For a thing to exist, it should be mutajalli. It should be tajalli and reflection of one or several names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there are darajat in the names, and every makhluk, every creature has his own level and daraja, and thus represents a different category of names. Those who are the highest in their spirituality are the ones who reflect all the names of Allah. Like Rasulullah and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam are the madahir and reflections of all the names and attributes of Allah without exception. So every surah of Quran has a daraja among the darajat of the names reflected in it, or one sha'an, one aspect of the various aspects of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reflected in it. So there are darajat related to the Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat of Allah, and those darajat and levels are reflected in that surah. So And keeping all this description in mind, we can easily understand that the meaning of every Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in the Holy Quran in front of the surahs is different from each other, and the only way to understand the complete meaning of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim of each surah, so you cannot say this is the meaning of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, which Bismillah are you talking about? We have 113 Bismillahs mentioned in front of the surahs. You cannot say, okay, the tafsir of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is this. Okay, which Bismillah? The tafsir depends on the contents of the surah. So you cannot give a blanket statement. The only way you can comprehensively do the tafsir of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim of one Bismillah ahead of a surah is you know the complete contents of that surah, and then you are able to know which daraja and level of names are reflected in that surah, referring to which of the tasks that Allah is performing, and then it will empower you to understand the true meaning of that specific Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and then you cannot compare that meaning to the rest of the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in other surahs, because the contents of every surahs are differing from each other. Just like one example of not this, but just like you see in various ayats of Holy Quran, where at the end of the ayat it says, let me take out an ayat of Quran from my app, for example, السارق والسارقة فاقطعوا أيديهما, for example. So this is an ayat of Quran, السارق. Okay, here it is. والسارق والسارقة فاقطعوا أيديهما. Okay, this is Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 38. Okay, so can I erase this? I can write down the ayat. What is that? Thank you so much. Thank you very much. So this ayat of Quran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ Ma'idah 38. فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا جَزَاءً. Let me enlarge it for my reading. جَزَاءً بِمَا كَسَبَا. والسارق والسارقة فاقطعوا أيديهما جزاء بما كسبا نَكَالًا مِنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ عَزِيزٌ حَكِيمٌ. So this verse from Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse 38. Al-Ma'idah 38. This verse says, as for the thief, man or woman, cut off their hands as a requital for what they have earned. This is the jaza, this is the, aftermath or reward, and this is the, in other words, jaza and punishment for what they did, for what they performed, what they earned. So, and an exemplary punishment from Allah, nakalam min Allah, and Allah is Almighty, all wise. Allah is Almighty, all wise. When this verse of Quran was revealed, coming back to the point what I was saying, when this verse of Quran was revealed, one person went after the revelation of the verse, he went outside in the desert and he met a desert dwelling Bedouin Arab in the desert. So, and he mentioned to that desert dwelling person that I just came from the South City and meeting with the Prophet, and this verse of the Quran was revealed on him, and what he recited the verse was instead of saying Azizun Hakim, he recited in front of that desert dwelling person, Allahu Ghafurun Rahim. والسارق والسارقة فاقطعوا أيديهما جزاء بما كسبا نكالا من الله والله غفور رحيم. This is how he recited the verse in front of the Badawi person living in the desert. In those days, the Arab people were very much aware of the of the Arabic rules and of the language, and they were fasaha and bulagha, and they have fasahat and balaghatul kalam and all that. They were very high in their Arabic adab and literature. And they used to have their own ceremonies of reciting the shi'r, and the best qasida, best poem used to be hanged at the wall of Kaaba for next 1 year. So they were proud over their Arabic literature. Right now you see, look at Fahad, who is making such a blatant Arabic mistake that a student of Arabic 101 would laugh at the speech of Fahad. So right now the situation is nowhere close to the level of Arabic adab and literature that the Arabs had at those times. Even today in the houses, we learn the Diwan al-Mutanabbi, the book of poetry of Mutanabbi, who claimed to be a prophet. Somebody who claims to be a prophet is not even a Muslim, right? He's a kafir. But his book is part of the syllabus, is being taught there in the houses. Why? Because of his great literacy work. Do we have shu'ara and poets available today who can match the highness of what he has written in his book? Well, bring them over if you have them. How many poets do we have today who can match the poetry of this kafir person? So people in the time of those days who were even kafir, but their books are still there because of their adab, right? Their Arabic literature was really high. Now coming back to the point, a person after hearing the ayat from Rasulullah went out of the city to the desert, met a desert dwelling Arab, illiterate person. There was no school in the deserts. Illiterate person, and he recited this ayat. This part he read wrong, and instead of saying Wallahu Azizun Hakim, he said Wallahu Ghafur Rahim. The Arab, desert dwelling Arab who was not in the city with Rasulullah, he was not there when the ayat was revealed, he corrected this man and he said the ayat must be Wallahu Azizun Hakim, Law kana ghafuran rahiman ma qata'a. He said if Allah was Ghafur and Rahim, he would not have, in this ayat of Quran, if Allah had said that he is Ghafurun Rahim, he would not have cut the hands, not have asked to cut the hand of the thief. When he's asking to cut off the hand of the thief, that means he is Azizun Hakim. He is not Ghafurur Rahim in this ayah. So even a desert dwelling, illiterate person can understand that much, right? Because of their adab, their Arabic literacy skills, which were very high in those days without any schoolings. So, coming to the point I was mentioning, what my teacher, Jawadi Amri Hafadullah, had said, the end of the verses of Quran, which talks about Al-Asma, the names of Allah, serves as a burhan. Serves as a burhan, means unshakable evidence. Serves as a burhan. The reason, why is Allah doing all this? Here is the reasoning, hidden in the two names. This is the reason, this is the evidence and proof why He is doing that. Do you understand these two names? If you understand it properly, you will not question why Allah is doing this. If you are questioning, because you don't understand these two names. So the Asma, the names of Allah mentioned at the end of the ayat, my teacher said, serves as burhan always. Unshakable evidence for the contents of the ayat. This was the example I was trying to give to you, that every name has, a daraja among the darajat, and sha'an from the shu'un, one aspect among the aspects, and one level among the levels of the name, represented, at least one level represented in that name, and serves, and that name is being reflected in the Quran, and that changes the the interpretation and tafseer of Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim related to that surah.
Also, imagine with the next ayah of that, it uses a Ghafurur Rahim. The next ayah, exactly like after this ayah.
Yeah, not
The
just
end, he uses a Ghafurur Rahim.
yeah, not just that, but even in one ayat of Quran you can find فَقُطِعَ دَابِرَ الْقَوْمِ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا فَقُطِعَ دَابِرَ الْقَوْمِ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا الْحَمْدُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. So, aspect of ghadab and aspect of mercy are combined even in one ayat of Quran. So, and I mentioned, I think in the previous class already, that Ar-Rahman is also Al-Ism Al-A'zam, one of those greatest names of Allah, just like Allah is Al-Ism Al-A'zam, one of those greatest names of Allah. So, now let's move forward further. Can I erase this? So, continuation of our discussion. This, like I said in the previous classes, is Rahmatul Mutlaqa, absolute mercy. And this is Mutanahiyya, limited mercy. Allah. Rahman, Ar-Rahman represents the absolute mercy. Ar-Rahim represents the limited. Mutanahiya means, Rahmatul Mutanahiya means limited Rahmat. Limited. Not all inclusive. No, Ar-Rahim is not for everybody. So it's a limited one, specially customized for some category of human beings only. So it's a limited mercy and a special one. So two types of mercy are there. So one is mutlaq and absolute, and that includes everything. Kulla shay. Kulla shay, everything. The word everything includes all the things. All the things means jami'u ma siwa Allah. That's exactly what it means. That means everything other than Allah. Everything other than Allah is included. All the prophets of God and the imams and the preachers and angels and humans and mu'mins and kafirs and dunya and akhir, everything other than Allah is including in that. It's such an absolute thing, absolute mercy. So this is where my teacher said in the Tafseer that the opposite of the word Ar-Rahman, that opposite of the Rahmat referred to in the word Ar-Rahman is not Ghadab. The opposite of the Rahmat mentioned and represented in the word Ar-Rahman is not Ghadab. That's wrong. Because Ghadab is also a thing, and Rahmat of the Rahmaniyat of Allah, which is absolute in its form, includes everything. Ghadab and wrath is also a thing. And that's also included in that absolute mercy, because it is also a thing. When ghadab and wrath is also a thing, it's also included. So that's not the opposite. That cannot become the opposite of Ar-Rahman's mercy. Then what is the opposite? The opposite of Ar-Rahman is Al-Adam. Non-existence. Is that clear? Only non-existence can be the opposite of Ar-Rahman, Al-Adam. Anything that exists, Rahmat of Rahmaniyat of Allah, that absolute mercy is including that. Whereas the opposite of Rahim, my teacher said, the opposite of Rahim, opposite of the mercy of Allah represented in the word Ar-Rahim, which is limited mercy, the opposite of that is the Ghadab and wrath. Is that clear?
Non-existence means nothing, or is it still means anything?
Non-existence is those things which are not there, not existing. That means everything that exists basically is so absolute that you cannot bring out anything which is not part of it. It's that much absolute. Only non-existence, the non-existence are not there. Nothing to discuss. Nothing to discuss. That means, in other words, Rahmat represented in Ar-Rahman includes all the things.
Everything God created.
Even Shaitan.
Yeah, everything, yeah.
Shaitan is also a thing, right? Creature of Allah. Shaitan is receiving the rahmat of Rahmaniyat of Allah. Kuffar, mushrikeen, munafiqeen, zalimeen, mujrimeen, mulhideen, zanadiqa, you name it, all the criminals, all the people, Ahlul Nar, people who belong to the hellfire, all of them are receiving that rahmat, which is absolute, belonging to the name of Rahman. All of them are receiving it. I mean, Shaitan, is he not surviving? Who is giving the life to Shaitan? Every fraction of the second, there has to be a mashiyyat, will of Allah. irada and niyat and intention and will of Allah at every fraction of the second for this existence to survive for the next second. If the will of Allah is not there for the fraction of the next second, that thing will not survive. So constantly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His wisdom-based will is willing for shaitan to survive. If Allah was not willing, shaitan will not survive. Imagine a criminal, a kafir person, a Yazid. So he's taking breath, his kidney is working, there's another nemat, his heart is beating, there's another nemat, his hand is moving, it's not shal, he didn't have a stroke, so he stopped having the movement of the hand, it's moving, he can walk, his feet is, there are countless blessings that even Yazid was receiving. Is that not true? Who was giving life to Yazid? Who was giving the breaths to? Who was pumping the heart of Yazid? Shaitan? No, shaitan is nobody to give anything to anyone. It's Allah who is giving the blessings, even to kuffar. So we need to understand the rahmat of rahmaniyat of Allah has wisdoms.
No, there is a question.
What the
Okay, so just to be clear, Ar-Rahman seems to be an equality of love in it too, for all living things, for all created things. Is that, would you say that?
No, not necessarily. Because it's an all-inclusive mercy. It includes the criminals as well, the kafir people as well, the dwellers of the hellfire as well. So they are definitely the dwellers of the hellfire, can never be subject to the love of Allah. It includes the believers as well, good doers as well, muttaqi people, pious people as well. They are subject of Allah's love. So Rahman is not specific to, in the sense, it's not showing love towards all those subjects upon which it is applying. No, it is showing, it has, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rahman has love towards some of the subjects of His mercy of Rahman, not all the subjects of His mercy. Actually, most of the people are in the hellfire, right? Most of لَقَدْ زَرَعْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْإِنسِ وَالْجِنِّ. Quran says, certainly we have created for the sake of Jahannam, huge number of humans and jinn. So most of the people are in the hellfire. Allah is not going to love the people of the hellfire. So yes.
By love, I don't mean that, oh, it's okay, whatever you do. I don't mean like that kind of love. I mean like just an innate love, as, this
Yeah,
driving
innate love
force
is
of this
there.
compassion.
Innate love is there for every existence, and if that love in the sense that Allah wanted all the existences to reach their takamul, their perfection. Initially, Allah did not create any human being to be a criminal from day one. Initially, Allah made every human to be a clean slate. We human beings ourselves do the bad deeds, believe in the wrong beliefs, perform the wrong deeds, perform the crimes, and because of our bad deeds and beliefs, we end up earning the ghadab and wrath of Allah. Initially, when Allah creates, humans are blank slate. He did not create a person from the day one as a criminal. So in that sense, yes, Allah is loving His creatures, which is a fact, and He provides every creature an opportunity to reach its own perfection appropriate to its own level of existence. For example, for plantations, there's a different meaning of the word kamal and perfection applying to that. For the jamaat, immovable existences, there's a different meaning of the word kamal and perfection applying towards those category of creatures. For animals, there's a different meaning of the word kamal applying to that. They have to reach to a different level of kamal and perfection. For human beings and jinns, the level of takamul and perfection that we talk about has a totally broad and deeper meaning, not there for any other existence. So yes, from that sense, Allah created us, He loved us, He provided us the opportunities to advance and excel and reach the kamal that we deserve to reach. Now, if I deviate from the track and stop acquiring the spiritual perfection, and instead of that, I go towards the deviation and deeper into the harams and sins, then obviously Allah is not going to love me. He warns, He gives the warnings after warnings. If I do tawbah and repent, that's still good. We become the beloved of Allah. Prophet has said, At-ta'ibu habibullah, a person who repents, performs tawbah, is the beloved of Allah. But if we don't repent, then Allah does not love me any longer.
So then, does that go to the Rahim? I'm still not exactly clear on the difference exactly about like absolute mercy versus like what if? And I'm sorry, maybe I didn't hear you properly when you were talking about limited or special mercy. Could you give another specific example of that?
Yeah, limited and special mercy is that mercy of Allah which He provides to the muttaqi, those people who have taqwa and piety only. So when we heed to the warnings of Allah and we obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah provides us the tawfiqat, the opportunities of doing further and further and further goodnesses and further knowledge and further obedience of the knowledge. It depends on my previous obedience of Allah. If a person Allah sent 124,000 prophets, Allah sent down the books, the code of law for nations. Now, if they did not listen to their messengers, didn't obey the books, altered the books, dumped Allah's values, did what their desires wanted them to do, so Allah gives them the warnings. He didn't start punishing, He gives the warnings. Several times He gives the warnings. A time reaches, then there is no use of talking to the person. He's not even listening. He's not paying attention. Why would Allah waste His words? Just like when we talk to somebody is not listening, we stop talking to the person. Well, Allah's mercy is way in no comparison to our mercy. So Allah gives so many warnings and so much time and chances for a person to repent. When the previous obedience was not done, warning duration passes by. Warning duration is based on Allah's wisdom. So according to His absolute wisdom, He gives the warning to a person. Some people end up doing tawbah before the last breath of their life. So when those of the people who are pious are the ones who were given the tawfiq and opportunity of more knowledge and more obedience of Allah, and thus they get elevated to further high levels of paradise. So this rahmat which is limited is only for the mu'min people who are muttaqi, and that rahmat is for everyone regardless. Is that clear?
It means this is a mercy that people earn by themselves.
Yeah, this is earned. This mercy is earned. This is correct. This mercy of Rahim, limited mercy, has to be earned by every human being to be deserving of that. This mercy is not earned.
This is
for everyone and everything, not just everything, even other than the human beings. Everything is included in that. It's so absolute. Now let's see some ayat of Quran that talks about the absolute mercy of Allah. Okay, here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, wa rahmati. وسعت كل شيء, and my mercy expands over everything. This rahmat that this ayat is talking about, let me tell you which ayat of Quran is that. Surah Al-A'raf 156. Al-A'raf 156. This rahmat mentioned in this ayat of Quran is rahmat of the name Ar-Rahman of Allah, which is all inclusive. And it's understandable from the ayat. Another ayat of Quran says, Rabbana wasi'ta kulla shay'in rahmatan. That's another ayat of Quran. Rabbana. When you understand the meanings of two mercies, you can distinguish which verse is talking about which kind of mercy of Allah. وَسِعْتَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ رَحْمَةً. O our Lord, you include everything in terms of your rahmat. So this verse of Quran belongs to Surah Al-Ghafir, ayat 7. Ghafir, verse 7. And you can understand from the ayat, after understanding the difference of the two mercies, that these two ayat are referring to the rahmat which is related to the name Ar-Rahman, not the name Ar-Rahim. And Imam Ali Islam has said in Dua Kumail, that means I ask you in the name, for the sake of that rahmat of yours, and I ask you for and I ask you for the sake of that rahmat of yours that includes everything. Again, the text is obvious. Imam Ali is talking about when the rahmat, it is inclusive of everything, rahmat of rahmaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ghadab and sakhat. The opposite. Ghadab and sakhat means anger. It's the opposite of the rahmat of rahmaniyat of Allah.
There's one of the dua of Sayyid Sajjadi from the last dua is 54. You say, Ya Farij al-Ham wa Kashif al-Ham, Ya Rahman al-Dunya wal-Akhirata wa Rahima. Is it mean Rahim is always...
Yeah, there's one call, one statement in the tafsir that rahmat, Rahman refers to the one call and statement in tafsir was like this, that rahmat of Rahmaniyat is that mercy of Allah which He provides to believers and disbelievers, all of them, in the life of this dunya. But the mercy that Allah provides on Akhirat and the hereafter is the mercy on the mu'min people only, and thus that mercy is the rahmat of the Rahimiyat of Allah, related to the name Rahim. This is one call, but this hadith of Imam Sajjad, which is authentic in Sahifa as-Sajjadiyya, is used as a counter argument by other Mufassirin to counter this statement that your statement is not acceptable, because Imam Sajjad alayhi salam has said in Sahifa as-Sajjadiyya that Ya Rahman al-Dunya wal-Akhirati wa Rahimahuma. O Rahman al-Dunya and Akhirat. So Allah is Rahman in Akhirat as well. Wa Rahimahuma, and you are Rahim in Dunya and Akhirat both. So this is the counter argument used by those people who deny that first call of tafsir. So like I said, in tafsir we have aqwal, and statements of various scholars. So, can I erase this?
Question. To better understand Rahim, you said it's limited special mercy. Does that, but it's only for the believers, the muttaqin. So, say I'm a sinner, or I'm a bad doer, and Allah does something to me. Say I tell lies all the time, and then somehow I can't talk anymore. That's removing my ability to continue lying, for instance. That's not a Rahim, because I'm not a muttaqin person.
Well, if a person has Iman, he received the rahmat of Rahimiyyat of Allah. Now, if we obey, we have taqwa and obedience and piety, Allah gives us further blessings, and I'm coming to the list. In the next thing is about that list, because Allah provides some of those things. So Allah provides the further blessings. If we listen and improve, that's very good. If we don't improve, a time arrives, then those blessings will be stopped. Will be stopped from a person who is not ready to do the tawbah after the warnings. A time will arrive that those blessings will stop. Yeah, so for every person, he gets what he deserves. How much we deserve, for how long we deserve the blessing, Allah knows better, best. Who deserves till when? As soon as we become deserving of the blessing being taken away, blessing will be taken away, because this is the justice of God. So the blessing is taken away when we become deserving of that salb, that snatching away of the blessing. That is in the knowledge of Allah. So yeah, the answer to your question, if I, God forbid, do sins, but I still do tawbah and return back, still I'm okay. But if I continue doing the sins, I should continue doing the tawbah. The problem will start when I stop doing the tawbah. That's where the problem will start. And I continue doing the sins one after the other without tawbah in the middle. That's where the problem will start. Now is the time for warnings. Now, after the warnings, if I improve, that's good. If I don't improve, yes, the blessings of Rahimiyyat of Allah will stop. Zubair was part of Ahlul Bayt, according to the hadith of Imam Ali alayhi salam. That's the madmoon al-kalam. Ma zal al-Zubair minna Ahl al-Bayt ma nasha'a ibnuhu. So and later on he came to fight Imam Ali alayhi salam. People change. So Rahmat of Rahimiyyat is there initially for the mu'mineen, for all the mu'mineen. And let me go to some of the important blessings of Allah related to the Rahmah. Thank you.
Is it fair to say that Rahim is not a descriptor of that type of a person who is not a believer, not making tawbah, and if something were to happen to them, they lost their tongue, Rahim does not describe that?
Well, losing of the tongue is a punishment, or in some cases if it is because of the sins, but those punishments used to arrive for previous nations.
I'm sorry, maybe removing their ability to continue doing those sins. That could be a form of
Allah
mercy.
does not remove the ability.
Really?
Allah does not remove that ability. That's against our freedom. Allah made us free to choose from the right from the wrong. So, for example, Shimr is slaughtering the neck of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. His hand was moving. He has the power to slaughter the son of the Prophet. Prophet said, Al-Hasan al-Hussein Sayyid al-Shabab al-Jannah, the leaders of the youth of paradise. Sunni Shias both narrated authentic thing. Now he's killing the leader of the youth of paradise. And the hand is moving. Who gave the energy, the freedom to move, the energy? Ni'mats and blessings are all given by God. But he's misusing that blessing. So Allah doesn't did not make his hand non-operative. If Allah made the hand non-operative and thus he could not slaughter Imam Hussain, the whole concept of freedom in this world and the test of the believers and test of the criminals, the whole phenomenon of test and Jahannam, the hellfire, and Jannat, the paradise, the whole concept will be gone. That depends on the freedom. If we continue to enjoy the freedoms, that's where we human beings deserve to get into the paradise or the hellfire based on our beliefs and actions. And animals do not enter into the hellfire, or they are not subjected to the Sharia laws because they don't have those freedoms given by God. So the point is that Allah does not take away the blessings which are related to the rahmat of Rahmaniyyat of Allah. Even shaitan can speak and continue to speak. Even shaitan can move around and continue to move around. And shaitan can walk, do things, continue to deceive, do the wrong and evil stuff every day. Continues to do that. Allah does not take away those capabilities. Those capabilities are related to the rahmat of Rahmaniyyat of Allah. Why should Allah take it?
In Imam Hussein's case, like it's going through, that mercy is going through Imam Alayhi Salam himself.
That mercy of Rahmaniyyat, yes. But Rahimiyyat, no, that's only for Mu'mineen and Muttaqeen. Rahmat of Rahmaniyyat is going through the Imam of the time, that's correct. He is the Umana ar-Rahman, Ameen of the Rahman. So they are the mercy, they are ones who receive all the blessings of Allah. In our beliefs, the Imam of the time is the one who receives every blessing and he distributes on behalf of Allah according to what every existence deserves. So who was giving that all the blessings? This is how much Ahlul Bayt are Ameen and trusted carriers of the amanat and entrusted trusts of Allah. They are not doing any breach of those amanat of Allah, even towards their worst enemies. How would they do any breach in their entrusted amanat and trusts of Allah towards the believers, and they are not doing any breach towards their worst enemies? This is the highest level of Ameen, amanatdari of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. But the point is that who was giving the power into the hand of Shimr when he's slaughtering? It's not Shaitan giving that. Who's Shaitan? Allah is giving that. Allah could have made his hand inoperative. Did Allah do that? No.
If he wants to do that, he could just destroy the whole world. That doesn't happen.
No, he can just will. Mashiach, in his, in Allah himself, in his Zat, in his essence, he just wills. He doesn't even have to do ishara, or a verbal statement. Kun fayakun, my teachers were saying in Tafseer, this kun is not kun al-lafdhiyya. It's not a kun word. When Allah wants to do something, He says it be, and it happens. It's not the word be that He has to pronounce it like we human beings have to pronounce the words. He doesn't stand in need of anyone or anything. Not even a need towards saying the word be for things to happen. All Allah performs is have the irada and will in His Zat and essence, and the thing happens. The be is mentioned in the Quran, my teacher said, for us to understand. It's not kun al-lafdhiyya. It's not a word form of the word kun, be, that Allah has to necessarily say to achieve something. He is not muhtaj towards kun al-lafdhiyya. Inshallah, we'll come to some of those examples and some verses of Quran related to Rahmaniyat and Rahimiyat, both inshallah in the next class.
Allah.